Exactly. So back to the limitless pin, which is playing back the tape, but also there's coaching involved where I can say, hey, was there an opportunity for me to connect better with Maverick in some way? Or sometimes I just get pushed. Hey, here's a summary of your day. And by the way, it looks like you really struggled with Hunter. And maybe this was a missed opportunity that you two might want to look to connect on next time.
Or I know Limitless, you've been around this past 5-day weekend when Hunter and Maverick have gotten into it a lot. Can you give us an understanding from your perspective on what is happening and some possible ideas for supporting them?
Yes. And that was really cool. That was a real one that we used just yesterday.
And that the vast majority of the fights that they're getting into start as power struggles. Yeah. And so now I've already started to see, even if I'm going, which is not the best parenting in the world, right? But like when I start to see the struggles, it really has helped me to know what to look out for.
Yeah, totally. 2 points on that. One, I should have asked it to explain it like I'm 4 or something like that.
You could have, yeah.
That was a miss. We do that often, and that is another good use on all of these things. Is just like there's a question, explain it like.
Well, on that note, though, I think giving any AI directive, like you are a world-class X, you are a world-class podcast coach.
Yes.
And producer, how would you say this? You are a world-class journalist, right? Like uncover X for me.
Exactly.
Making sure that it knows not just who the audience is, but like who to really embody.
Yeah.
Talk to me like you're Chris Sacca. I do that, that kind of thing. If there's enough publicly available information about these individuals out there and they've been on plenty of podcasts, it can do it for you pretty well.
Yep. So coach and give specifics around how the communication and context needs to be inputted and outputted. The second thing I was going to say is for a week, we did an experiment where we hung my Limitless in the kitchen so that we could just hear how the dynamics were between the kids. Mm-hmm. And I think that is going to be another thing that I'm going to look forward to, is a device that is sitting in our kitchen that's able to feed back to us what is happening when we're not around and some of the words that get used, and both the good and the bad, right? Because I want to know, where are kids showing up for one another and where are they kind of missing one another, or where are they butting heads?
Yeah, jury's still out on that one for me because, as you know, I felt like it was watching me.
Well,
and I was uncomfortable.
I know.
It's one thing if I can forget that it exists and go back to my real self, but I felt like I was a bit performative or really stunted in the way I was responding because I was nervous about it judging me.
I totally understand. And hence why I want it for not as a babysitter, but when we go out for a run and, on the weekend and the kids are home, putting it in the kitchen and just hearing how things are going.
Yeah,
maybe.
So another way that we have used AI as a coach is as a guidance counselor for Hunter and for Jade, right? Always with us alongside of them. Yes. This is not teenagers falling in love with chatbots. This is sometimes going back to that neutral third party with, by the way, beautiful verbiage and perfect intonation to provide empathy and validation and support. Just to ask questions. Yeah. And to work through problems with us sitting alongside. And it's almost like a family therapist, if you will, for really low stakes situations something may have happened at school where they will just listen to a third party more than they will listen to my advice, or just express their feelings in a way that maybe they weren't when they were staring directly at me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think that this supervised use of a large language model, parents and child, is so much better than what they're going to push out there around child therapy with AI. Yikes. Or family therapy with AI. Because honestly, once you start giving your power over to something because you're calling it a therapist, that's when you really run into.
Well, we struggle with that with humans as well, right? Even when you, I think giving your power over to a human therapist
exactly
is also a challenge.
Exactly.
And I think what we want to do, same thing as we are with the iPhone from a hardware perspective, is that we want to support and guide our children in a developmentally appropriate way to use these tools while maintaining agency, autonomy, boundaries, and the ability to think critically about, okay, was that a good idea? Let me repeat that back to myself. Like, was that a hallucination? Was that just off? Does that resonate with me? But to tell you the truth, it's not that different than a human therapist who has no idea what you're thinking either, right? I mean, you and I have both bullshitted and manipulated therapists very easily, right? So I don't see how it's going to be any different with a chatbot, because they don't really know, nobody really knows what's going on in your head. But learning to leverage this tool in a developmentally appropriate way as a family early on makes sense for us.
It sure does. It really does. And similarly, health coaching.
So as far as health troubleshooting, I do think it's a slippery slope. And I think both of us have come to, well, we've gone down the rabbit hole of, is this the thing that's giving me a stomach ache? Is this the thing that's not helping me sleep? And it's like, yes, absolutely. That is the problem. And it's really just a very big health spiral. So as we talk about like kind of being in this dance with AI, I think that, and we calibrate our use of it, I personally am staying away from health coaching. And so we are like learning in real time.
Yeah.
However, when Maverick slammed his head, when we were on a boat in the middle of the Intracoastal, nowhere close to where we came from. And he started to get a giant welt on his head, and we were scared out of our minds. Talking to GPT about what actually just happened and whether or not we needed to like get an emergency airlift situation or we were okay was so powerful.
So powerful. And the more context, the better. So multimodal, photos, videos, whatever we have on hand, like the more context is going to be better. And taking a photo of the back of his head and being like, he just slammed his head. Look at this. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it was so comforting. And, I've had some time to reflect more recently on Jade's birth and the, potential malpractice that we were a part of.
Yeah.
And I realized that it is so incredibly unlikely that we would have had that same situation today. Because if we had said, I seem to have white coat high blood pressure and panic in the office, they want to induce me, what should I do? It would have told us the truth, which is that medical best practice says you should have a 24-hour urine test, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and this is what I mean by when you have zero information available to you because you're in panic mode and this is only your second birth ever, or you're in the middle of the Intracoastal and your kid has hit their head, it can be extremely clarifying and supportive just to know, just to gather some baseline level of information around what is supposed to be done if you are a patient or what you should do as the parent.
Totally. I can't believe that 2019 is basically the before times.
Yeah, I'm forgiving myself for this, but I also am just like, gosh darn it, 3 years later, and we never, ever would have had that traumatic experience.
They were like sanitizing the scalpel with like some alcohol and giving you a piece of wood to bite down on.
Yeah, right.
That's
laughing gas.
Laughing gas. That's basically what it feels
like.
What it feels
yeah,
like. Now have this power.
It must also be awful for doctors right now because we are in this forming phase of AI where I'm sure tons of patients are coming in and like, GPT tells me to do X. And they're like, I don't know, maybe my 30 years of experience tell me to do Y.
Yep.
So I feel for you in the medical system out there. And I'm really glad that we as patients have more opportunity to get up to speed on our own health more quickly.
Yep.